Hi, my name is Jen Potter, and I'm the host of Networking Now. Today, I am joined by Deanna Russo. She is an amazing business owner and a LinkedIn expert. I have had the pleasure of knowing her for several years now, and every time I talk to her, I get super excited because I just love our conversations and all of the different things that we talk about. So, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Jen.
Absolutely. So I want to just jump right in and just start to talk about all of the things that you do. So it's not just one thing. So if you want to tell everybody what you do, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about, the different things that you do on LinkedIn.
You got it. So, my LinkedIn journey started in 2008. That's when I first got on the platform. But for about 10 years, I treated it like an online resume. It was just a place to put all of the work experience, and maybe a few times a year I would go on it. I did nothing with it until 2018. That was when everything changed because I was in a sales job and that company wanted me to use LinkedIn to bring in new business. For them, it meant copying and pasting a script into a cold call message, otherwise known as "you don't know me, you don't like me, but come sign over business to me." And I did it for a while. And then I got a light bulb moment that basically was like, why would they? Why? I put myself into the other people's shoes and said, why would they spend the money with me if they didn't know who I was? And so I changed the way that I thought about LinkedIn. I changed my whole strategy and I spent more time putting emphasis and effort into my profile, figured out what I needed to say in each and every part. I went into the comment section on LinkedIn and I started having conversations. And I built the trust part of the know, like, and trust through my content. And so that began my triangle, and it helped me grow on LinkedIn from 400 to 11,000 in 18 months. Now I just got past 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I teach people how to do it. I teach people the triangle strategy.
Which is so amazing because, I was going to ask you at the beginning, when you do those cold calls, how many people do you actually get that are like, you know what, I don't know you. I think I'm going to go with what you got. You probably
It
didn't get many, right?
doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And it didn't happen for me back then. So I'm like, I just have to change the way that I was doing this. And I'm so happy I did.
And when we met at a networking event in Texas, and you completely, just the conversations that we had completely changed my outlook when it comes to LinkedIn. I think we met in, was it 2002 maybe?
Yeah.
Yep. So
2022, 2022.
correct. Yep. And your enthusiasm for the platform really made me say, oh, I can actually get business out of this. There's actually something else that I can actually obtain from this. And you're like, yeah, that's how I get all my business. This is how I make all my connections. And, because we met via networking, but the amount of people that I have met through LinkedIn that have become friends are absolutely incredible. And it started with you telling me to change the outlook of, or the platform outlook, when people log in to see my account, right? Because it was just plain, there was nothing there. Like you said, it was a resume. The fact that LinkedIn has been around since 2008, if not before then,
Yeah,
is
it was
absolutely,
2003.
yeah,
Yep.
which is insane because
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like, you literally go on, you put your resume on it, and that's all you did, right?
Right.
And then it wasn't till you showed me your page and you said, look, this is what I'm doing. And it was so simple. And I'm like, oh, if I change some of the words up at the top and I actually explain what I'm doing, like, and then even just like certain sections, I'm like, I can put all these things there. So
Mhm.
now it's like when you log onto my LinkedIn, it's more than just that. It's like, hey, look this is who I am. These are all my connections and things that I'm doing. And you interact. And I will be honest, like the last few months, like I haven't utilized it as much, and I've noticed a difference. I've noticed a huge difference that I haven't been able to like really get into it. So you went from 2018 to now, so just over 6 years roughly, right? Where you had, a handful of followers to over 30,000 followers. And one of the things that you do is you also teach classes about this, correct?
Yes.
And and what do those classes entail when you're teaching different things about LinkedIn?
Basically, when people invite me to speak, I'm telling them what the triangle strategy looks like, but I'm introducing the topic as a big networking event. If we just looked at LinkedIn as a big networking event and we change the way that we view the platform, then our whole perspective on it changes. So you don't go to a networking event with a grouchy look on your face. Regardless of what's happening, before you walk into that event, you're ready. You put the smile on, you put your best face on, and you walk in, because those people are strangers to you and you know you want to make the best first impression. That's your LinkedIn profile. And then once you're at the event, you're not going to a corner and sitting by yourself. If you do, you're going to miss on the whole opportunity of a networking event. You're walking up to people to shake hands. That's commenting. You're going to comment on people's content, because that's you shaking hands, and they cannot like you if they don't see you and if you're not visible to them. No one walks into a networking event, Jen, I have yet to see it, with a or
Thumbs up.
it doesn't happen. People talk to each other.
Right. I never thought about that though. And it wasn't until, you've mentioned that to me before, but like, it's true. When we walk in, hey, my name's Jen. So nice to meet you. And you shake other people's hands, or, more, more people do the whole fist bump thing, which I think is funny when you go into a networking event.
Yeah.
But we're evolving. But with that being said, I never thought that that whole commenting piece was that parallel,
Yep.
because even though you've kind of said it to me before, but just the way that you just said it just now, it was like a light bulb just went off in my head.
Yep. Yep. And then the third piece, when you're at that networking event and you're having the conversations, if you do not act enthusiastic about what you do, if you don't tell them, I just signed a client to this, or I just did this, or here's my new book that's coming out, if they don't see that enthusiasm from you, then they're just going to look at it as another conversation. And that I really will not remember that. And that's where the trust factor comes in. They will trust you when they get to know how your business works. And that's where the content comes in on LinkedIn. They can only trust you if they see that you are worth their trust. And that's what you can get from creating content on LinkedIn.
That's actually really interesting, right? Because when you go into a networking event and you're chatting with people, I tell clients all the time, the thing that sells us is us, right?
Yeah.
We are our business. It doesn't matter what we're selling. And you know this, right? You worked for another company at the time when you're doing the cold calls. So we're representing that business, and we are the business that we're representing, whether we own it or we're working within that business. And a lot of people don't typically buy things because they either don't need it or they weren't convinced that they need it, right? And we are that differentiating factor. Like, it's us. And so if I meet you online and you're like, blow me away, and you're setting all these cool comments, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Deanna seems so awesome. And then I log into her LinkedIn profile and there's nothing there. I'm like, does she even exist?
Right. Right. There's more questions than answers. So that's why when I'm working with people on their LinkedIn, the first thing we do is look at that profile. And we look at each and every piece of that profile in order to make sure that you are representing you and your business in the best way. Because otherwise, there are more questions than answers.
I really love that. And now that, like, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I probably should revamp my LinkedIn. Because, like, I try to update it as often as possible, but, like, I'm like, crap, Deanna's gonna look at my LinkedIn profile, and she's gonna be like, we could probably change these few things. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to have a conversation and ask you, like, what we can change, because I we want to always, show who we are, and we are constantly changing, as ourselves and as our businesses. We're not staying stagnant. So, for someone who has a LinkedIn profile, how often would you suggest that they update it?
As much as you need to. It should evolve. See all these books behind me? LinkedIn
Mhm.
is not a book. You don't set it and forget it. It doesn't go to print and it just stays there. No, this is something that should constantly evolve. Now, that being said, you don't need to go in every single day and change something on your profile. But if it's sitting there for months and months on end and you don't have updates of the new book that's coming out or this event that's coming up or anything like that, then you're
Right.
missing an opportunity.
I really like that. And now that I have a book coming out, I probably should put that in my LinkedIn profile.
Uh-huh.
Um, right, because it's those things that we are like, oh, we're doing this, and we might post about it, so it'll be there on a post, but the post will eventually go away. And yes, you can see it when you go to the profile that this was some of the posts that you did, but I think having the content there that reflects where you are, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are things that I don't necessarily think about. And so I know when people are putting, I'm going to ask you some of these topical questions because in the next few segments we're going to get like deep dive into it. But
Yeah.
if if I have a profile picture up on LinkedIn, what is your suggestion for profile pictures? Because I see an eclectic version of profile pictures, but pictures that you would suggest like are good for LinkedIn profiles. Selfies?
A good head and shoulder shot, because if you have a full body picture of yourself as a profile, then people are not going to see your face. And for a really good first impression, they need to see your smile. They need to see how enthusiastic and happy you are. And you can only see that in that small circle. But keep in mind, the majority of the people that are on LinkedIn now are on using their phones. So the LinkedIn mobile app does not allow a huge profile picture. And so that's why I always say head and shoulders above all else. And definitely look at the camera and smile. It does not have to be a professional picture. It doesn't. I love professional headshots. Don't get me wrong. I have photographer friends that will be like, oh, don't. But if you don't have $250 or more to spend on a good headshot, you can just have somebody else take the picture, and it's just as good.
But making sure that we have a good smile, really good eye contact,
Yeah.
and because that's your initial like sales shot, right? They're like, "Oh, this looks like a person that I could trust." Because
Yes.
when you have the blurry pictures or they're looking off to the side, my
Um,
favorite is when you see like these side
yeah.
profiles, and then
Yeah.
you get in front of the person, you're like, "Whoa, I didn't even know that was the same person." And not that's a bad thing, but you instantly, for me, I have a photographic memory, so it's like this instant connection. So
Yeah.
pictures are super important to me. The banner up at the top I feel like is underutilized, but sometimes overutilized.
Yeah.
If you were to tell us before we cut to the next segment, what is one suggestion that you would make with the banner?
The banner should not be the 3 shades of gray template that LinkedIn gives you. You should choose the real estate. That being said, use the real estate, but keep in mind again what I said before. This device, a lot of people are on their phones.
Yep.
So if I cannot read the text that you have on your banner on the LinkedIn mobile app, you're going to lose me. So you don't want to put everything up on there, but you want to make sure that the text is big enough that you can see it. So I always tell people, check your banner on the desktop and the mobile app.
I love that so much. And so when we get to our next segments, we're going to deep dive a little bit into that triangle that you are teaching everyone and how amazing it is. I was lucky enough that, I got to edit something that you were working on. So I know what you're going to be talking about. So it's really amazing of all of the information and the wealth of information that you have in that brain of yours, because it has proven to be extremely successful and you have worked with some really amazing people to get them to be more successful. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about all of those amazing things that you're working on in LinkedIn. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.